Hello everyone, good morning. Thank you for joining the webinar. My name is Josh Brown and I work at Shopify with third-party app developers. Shopify is an app store with over 1,500 different third-party solutions, and I work with developers who are using the Shopify API to build products and offer them in the Shopify App Store for merchants. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite parts of the Shopify platform, which is embedded apps for Shopify Point of Sale. If you're not familiar with Shopify POS, it's a solution that retailers use to sell their products in person, at festivals, at events, and also in store as well. And you can use Shopify POS with an Android smartphone, with an iPhone, or with an iPad. And what we're kind of looking at here would be a typical setup in a shop. You can integrate Shopify POS with a variety of different hardware, so like receipt printers, cash drawers, and also, of course, card readers for accepting credit card payments. So Shopify's always had card readers, but one fun fact is that last week we actually announced a new design for a new card reader. And this card reader is going to be free to folks with a Shopify subscription. So really exciting stuff for folks who are using Shopify Point of Sale. And that's coming out this summer. So if you use Shopify on the web, you'll know that apps have a huge place in the Shopify web admin. They let merchants do everything from accounting for their store to running marketing campaigns, to customizing their theme. And what we wanted was for Shopify Point of Sale to have the same extensibility as the web admin does. So we created a new category for the Shopify App Store, which holds apps that are integrated right inside of Shopify POS and extend the experience for the merchant or their store staff. So a really cool thing about building apps for Point of Sale is that it's a lot like building web apps for the Shopify admin, except your app will show up inside of Point of Sale. If you've used the Shopify web admin before, then you might have seen the Apps tab, which looks a bit like this. Merchants will see a list of the apps they've installed in the Apps tab, and they can click on each one of those apps to access it, often inside of an iframe, so that they're still inside the Shopify admin, but the app is embedded right inside the admin. So Point of Sale apps are similar. When staff log into Point of Sale, they can access the Apps tab from the left, and there they'll see a list of the apps they've installed that are integrated with Shopify Point of Sale. And merchants are able to tap on those app cards, and then the app will load inside of the web view. So if your app is not connected to the checkout flow, then this might be the way that merchants normally access your app, through the Apps tab, then clicking on the app card and loading it that way. One example of that might be an app to help merchants manage the music in their store. Maybe it doesn't have to do with the checkout flow. They're just going to access it through the Apps tab, and they'll click on the card, and that's how they'll get to it. That works, but we also wanted Point of Sale apps to integrate with the checkout flow itself. So there's two POS links that we're going to talk about today, which are extensions of the Shopify checkout for Point of Sale, where apps can place links within the checkout flow that open their app within either a modal or full screen view. And you can set up these links from the Shopify Partners dashboard by going to Apps, finding your app, and then going down to Shop POS links. So this is kind of what the app links look like. The first one we'll talk about is the completed order integration. This app link appears at the end of a completed checkout with Point of Sale after a purchase has been made. The merchant will see the apps button there. Then they'll see, once they click on the apps button, they'll see a list of the apps that are integrated with the completed order link. And they can click on those links, and then their app will load in either a full screen view or inside of a modal, depending on which the developer has chosen. Now, when Order Printer loads there, it's a Point of Sale app, and you can see it might look like it's native iOS code, but actually what it is just CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. So it is a web app that's being loaded inside a web view and made to look like the rest of Shopify Point of Sale. So the completed order integration, the one we're looking at here would be Order Printer, which is an app that allows you to print customized receipts. Another good use case for the completed order integration would be post-purchase surveys. So if you want to collect extra information from customers at the end of a purchase, maybe they want to be able to subscribe to an email newsletter subscribe to an email newsletter. They can do that using integrations from the apps button at the completed order integration. So here you can see again what Order Printer looks like after you tap on the apps button and click on the integration. Again, it looks like it might be native code, but it actually is just HTML and CSS there. So the other integration, and one with a lot more powers, would be the Edit Cart integration. This one is accessed from clicking on the three dots when adding things to cart from Shopify POS. When the Edit Cart menu comes down, you can see a list of the apps that have integrated with this point, and your app can show up there in the list. So this integration, I mentioned it has more powers. You can use it to make adjustments to the cart. So adding things to cart, adding discounts, all of that good stuff you can do from Edit Cart integrations, which open a modal or full screen view that can communicate with POS. So we'll talk more about that in a minute as far as how that works. So I mentioned that building POS apps is a lot like building embedded apps for the Shopify web. If you've built an embedded app before for the web, this might look familiar. The POS SDK is initialized after you go through the OAuth flow by, first of all, loading pos_app.js. What this is it's a JavaScript file that allows your app to communicate with the point of sale using our point of sale app SDK. Further down, you can see that we're initializing the SDK using Shopify POS.init. So you'll have to do this whenever you're going to use the point of sale app SDK, and you'll initialize it with the API key for your app and also the shop origin. So the shop origin identifies the store that has gone through the OAuth flow, and you'll put there the My Shopify domain name of the store that it's authenticated. So again, this is exactly like how it is with embedded apps for the web, just it's Shopify POS.init instead of what's used with the web embedded apps. So after the SDK has been loaded, Shopify POS.ready will fire, and this tells you that communication with the SDK is now available. So once that's been fired, then you'll know you're able to create flash notices or fetch the cart or do whatever actions you need to take with the point of sale app SDK. So one of the more common things that the SDK is used for would be managing the cart. And it kind of starts with fetching the cart. So you can fetch the contents of a cart using Shopify POS.fetchCart. And there's two callbacks you can define, one for success, if we're able to retrieve the cart, and one for a failure. So if it succeeded, then the cart will contain an object with an array of line items, with the totals, for example, the subtotal and the taxes, the customer if one's been defined. So if the merchant has added a customer or if another app has, then it'll be on the cart object, and any cart properties or line item properties, which we'll talk about more in a second. In addition to fetching the cart, once you have it, you can act on the cart. So a few of the things you can do would be to add line items. So if you want to add something to the cart that isn't already there, maybe it's a buy one, get one deal, and there's a particular product that they get for free, you can add them using add line item. If you want to adjust the quantity of line item, you can do that using update line item, and remove the line item would be to take something out of the cart entirely. So cart properties are a hugely powerful part of the POS app SDK. What they allow you to do is to attach arbitrary data to the transaction as it goes through point of sale. So when you load a modal or when you load a full screen view from the Edit Cart integration, you can attach cart properties to the order, and what will happen is these properties will show up in the web admin for the merchant later on. So really useful if you need to get any custom information, any particular information about maybe what your app did with that transaction. Maybe there's a customization to the cart, anything like that you can attach using cart properties. And they'll show up in the admin, also through the regular admin API, and even through Liquid. So if a customer is accessing your app from the web and then they go to a store, you can use Liquid to integrate data between the two. So really powerful option to have with the POS app SDK. On a similar note, not only can you attach properties to the whole cart, but you can also associate properties with individual line items. And this is really commonly used for things like engravings or monograms. If a customer wants to purchase a customized product where there's extra information that has to be attached, then you can do that using line item properties. And again, it will be accessible everywhere that the order is. So you can access these line item properties from the web admin. They'll show up in the API. They'll show up through Liquid and even in the order printer app. Great, so another really common thing that the point of sale app SDK is used for will be setting discounts. And this is a great feature of the SDK because it's a bit easier to set discounts with the point of sale than it would be perhaps with the web. What you can do here is you can define an arbitrary discount and attach it to the cart using setDiscount. And as with before, there will be two callbacks you can define, one for success and one for errors. If it succeeded, you'll get back the cart. And if it failed, then you'll get back information about the errors that took place. One type of error that might take place would be a validation error, for example. So if the discount is larger than the cart, then that would fail and you'd get back an error there. You can find information about all of the different error codes in the point of sale app SDK documentation on the web. So another really cool feature of the point of sale app SDK is that you can retrieve information about the user that is accessing your app at that point in time. Many merchants use Shopify POS with lots of different locations and lots of different staff who are checking in for shifts, maybe at all different hours of the day. So when your app is opened, you can use Shopify POS.fetchUser to identify which user is accessing your app at that point in time. And you could use this to provide different features to different users of the app. So Shopify POS.fetchLocation is another pretty cool feature. It allows you to identify which POS location your app is being operated from. So again, POS can be used in many different locations. If folks have stores in Ontario and they have stores in Quebec, maybe you want to have an app that offers sales within Quebec. You can use fetch location to identify which location your app is being used at, and then provide different features accordingly. Great, so I didn't mention this earlier on, but this is another power that is exclusive to the edit cart integration. You can use set customer and remove customer to control which customer is associated with the cart that's being processed. So if you already know the ID of the customer, you can pass that information to set customer, and that will attach that customer with the cart using the POS app SDK. You can also add a customer address, or update a customer address. So if you know if there's a change in customer address, maybe you're working with a CRM system that has two different addresses, you can use these functions to control the address of the customer that is checking out. So another really nice feature of the SDK is that, a lot like our embedded apps for the web, you can use Shopify's UI flash notices within your own embedded app. This allows you to display feedback to the merchant that looks a lot like the feedback the merchant would get when they're using the app itself. And we'll take a look a little later on at what these flash notices and flash errors look like. Cool, so what should we build with the point of sale app SDK? If you've already got an embedded app for the Shopify admin, then you might consider also embedding it within Shopify POS. For example, if you have an email marketing app, you might opt to allow store staff to access it from the iPad so that they can help folks who are coming into the store sign up or unsubscribe, hopefully subscribe to to your email newsletter. So some apps are embedded both in the admin for the web and also in point of sale. You can do this by checking the user agent header when a merchant accesses your app. If it's in point of sale, then you'll see a point of sale specific user agent, which you can use to distinguish between a merchant accessing your app through the iPad or through the iframe on the web. So we already talked about the completed order integration. This is a great way to collect extra information from a customer after they've completed their purchase in the store. You can use the completed order integration to build an app to run customer surveys. So if you need to ask for extra information after purchase, you can do that using the point of sale app SDK. A lot of the customer operations that we talked about earlier on make it easy for you to integrate a loyalty solution or a rewards program within Shopify POS. So if you have an external database of customers, maybe a particular rewards program where folks get a discount based on ongoing purchases, you can use the point of sale app SDK to integrate that with an in-store retail experience. So you can build apps and submit them to the Shopify App Store, but there's also an opportunity to build custom solutions for larger merchants. Many merchants use point of sale across lots of different stores and lots of different locations. And maybe point of sale works well for them, but they have one or two features they just want added to it to make it perfect for them. So you can build custom apps for those larger merchants to extend point of sale and make it even better solution for them based on their needs. One thing to remember about building custom apps for point of sale is that you will have to create the app within a partner's dashboard. Point of sale apps are just available through the OAuth process where you're creating an app in the partner's dashboard. It's not possible to create a point of sale app from the private apps section of a Shopify store. You'll have to create it through the partner's dashboard. So there's also an opportunity to build apps for in-store management. For example, apps for retail analytics to maybe keep track of how busy the shop is, and also apps to maybe control the music within a store or the lighting even. So all kinds of apps to help you run your shop. There's loads of opportunities there as well. And submitting to the App Store is pretty straightforward. If you want to submit an app for publication in the Shopify App Store, what you can do is go into the partner's dashboard, and there you'll see a form, which I'll show you in a second, where you can submit your app for testing. And what will happen is we'll try it out, we'll look for any bugs, we'll make sure it meets the criteria, and then if it works well, we'll publish it in the Shopify App Store in the POS category. Cool, so you can build point of sale embedded apps with any programming language you like, PHP, Node.js, .NET, whatever works for you. But we also have a sample app on GitHub, which is written in Ruby on Rails. So let's try out the sample app. I'll download it to my computer and let's run it locally to see what it looks like. Great, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to start off by cloning the repository to my local computer here. And I'm using Git for this. If you don't have Git, you can also just download it as a zip, but I'm going to use Git in this case. So we'll go git clone and then the URL of the repository. So you can find this repository on GitHub at Shopify's GitHub account /POS app SDK example. And it's open, so you can try this at home. And we have instructions down at the bottom here as well. So this might help you if you are giving it a shot. So I've downloaded it to my local computer here. We can see it's in POS app SDK example, so let's go in there. And we can see that the files from GitHub, they're now on my computer here. Cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into my Shopify Partners account. If you don't already have a Partners account, I definitely suggest creating one. You can use, they're free, so it doesn't cost anything. And what you get is the ability to create free development stores for testing your app out and for development purposes. You can also use them for creating custom shops for clients. And most importantly for right now, what we're going to do is we're going to create an app here. So create a new app, and it's asking for a title. And It's also asking for an icon. So if we upload an icon here, then this is what will show up next to the POS links in the iPad. I don't have an icon for right now, so we'll just leave it blank. Great, so as we were talking about earlier, you can create an app here that's embedded both in the web admin and in point of sale. When I check off embed app in Shopify POS, this tells Shopify to list the app under the apps tab in point of sale. So I'll check that off. So down here, it's asking for some super important information, starting off with the app URL. And what you can think of this as is sort of the front door for your Shopify app. This is where the merchant will be redirected when they tap on the apps card from the iPad, or if they click on install from the Shopify App Store. This is where they'll get sent first. And it's where you can start the OAuth flow and authenticate the merchant before loading your point of sale app. So for right now, I'm just going to fill in a placeholder. And what we'll do is we'll come back to this in a minute. So further down here, it's asking also for the redirection URL. This is where the merchant can be redirected to after they accept the terms and agree to install your app into their store. So again, I'm going to fill in a placeholder and we'll come back to this in a minute. Cool, and I will accept the terms of service. Great, so Shopify's created the app for us, and they've given us an API key and a secret. So the API key, as we talked about before, this is the public part, and this is what we'll use in the front end of our app when we're initializing the point of sale app SDK. Cool, so I'm going to go back to the command line, and I'm going to go into the config directory, and we'll go into initializers. Great, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to edit Shopify_app.rb. Cool, and what we're going to do here is we're going to edit in the API key and secret that we got from Shopify earlier on when we created our app. So I'll go back to the partners dashboard, and let's copy the API key. I'm going to fill that in here. Along with the secret. Now, if we were building this app in production, you might want to provide the API key and secret in a different way. For example, through the environment variables of your app. For today, just because we're developing, I'm going to just fill them into this file here. And I'm going to save the file. So here you can also see scopes. These are the permissions that we're going to ask the merchant for when they install our app. The ability to read orders and the ability to read products. We're not going to talk too much about the authentication process today, but they're there just so you could edit these too if you wanted other permissions. Cool, so we're going to go back to the command line now. And I'm going to run bundle install. And what this is going to do is it's going to make sure that we have all the different dependencies that this app is going to use. Now at the bottom you might notice Shopify_app. This is another open source project we have that is a Rails generator that allows you to build embedded apps for the web and also for point of sale. So it helps with a lot of these dependencies help with processes that are common across Shopify apps, like the authentication process. So it's a helper that's going to make it a bit easier for us to deal with things like OAuth. Great, now that we've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a command to create a table for the shops that are using our app. So we just created a small table that is going to, like I said, it's going to be used for the stores that install our app. Now, if you're building a production app, you might have a lot more tables than this. Things for users, things for discounts. For today, we're just going to have that one small table. So now let's actually run the app locally and see if it works. Cool, so let's see if it shows up in a browser. Awesome, so here would be the homepage for our app, we can see the example app is now running. And it's saying you can enter the My Shopify domain name to install it. So this is great, but we have a couple problems. First of all, I'm hoping to test this app out on an iPad. But unfortunately, this app is not exposed to the internet. So it's not going to be possible for my iPad to use it. So what we can do is we can use a tool called ngrok. And they have a free plan. They've also got paid plans. But what it does is it lets you create a tunnel from your local computer to the internet. And what it'll do is it'll make it easier for us to test our point of sale embedded app inside of an iPad. So cool, what I'm going to do here is I already got ngrok installed. I'm going to run ngrok on my machine, and let's see if it creates a tunnel from my computer to the web. So this is how ngrok works. You're just going to run, I'll run ngrok here, and then it will create a server like this, which tunnels to my app. So now we can see my app is running at ngrok.io, and I can enter the My Shopify domain name to install it. So let's give that a try. Oh, okay, so it didn't work. It says that there's no auth problem. We don't have the right redirect URI. So let's go back to the partner's dashboard, and let's fill in the stuff that we left blank earlier on. Cool, so under app settings, we'll go back to the app URL. Like I mentioned before, this is kind of the front door for the Shopify app. And this is where the merchant will be redirected from when they click on the app card within POS. So what we'll do here is we'll put in the ngrok URL that we got from when we started our ngrok server. Cool, so I filled that in. And further down here, we'll also put in the redirect URL. This is where the merchant will be redirected to after they agree to install the app. So in the case of this sample app, again, we're using Shopify app as a boilerplate to help us build this app. It will be the ngrok URL /auth /Shopify /callback. Great, so we filled those in. I'm going to save the app now. And let's go back to the ngrok example we were looking at. This is where our server is running at ngrok, and let's try installing it again. Cool, so this time it worked. We can see the install screen, and the merchant is being asked if they want to grant permissions for our POS app to access their store. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned yet is that POS apps are actually installed through the web. So it's not possible to install a POS app from within the POS application on the iPad. The merchant does install it from the web app store for Shopify. So I'm going to install the app. I'll give permissions for this app to access my store. Cool, so the app is now loading in the web admin for Shopify because we ticked off that we do want this app to be loaded both in the web admin and in the embedded app for iPad. Great, so let's take a look in our iPad to see if the app will load there too. Before we try out the app inside of an iPad, let's go back to the app listing in the partner's dashboard, and let's add an integration point. So with this sample app, it does include a couple of different integration points. We'll just add one for today. And as we talked about earlier, it's under Shop POS links. That's where you can set up the links for your integration points within the iPad. And we'll call it discounts. And it's going to be at the server where my app is running /discounts. And for the screen, we'll choose the edit cart action, and we'll make it a modal. You could run your app as a full screen view or a modal. This one we'll just make a modal. And we're going to save the changes there. Great. So if you're testing your app at home, what you'll want to do is try to use an iPad for development. It really helps to have one for at least testing it at the end to make sure your app looks the way you want it to within point of sale. For today's demo, I'm going to use a simulator. So we're going to load the simulator, and then we'll access Shopify point of sale from our development store. And since we installed the app, and because we checked off Shopify POS, hopefully we'll be able to access the app from within the iPad. So I'm going to log into my store here. And we're logging for the first time, so it's going to download my products, and hopefully we'll be able to see our app and access it through the iPad. Again, if you're doing this at home, it's best to borrow an iPad, or if you can find one, that really helps, because that's how you'll be able to test your app and see that it works the way you want it to within the iPad. So we'll click Start Selling. And the Apps tab is there, like we were talking about earlier. So we'll click on that, and we can see here a list of different apps that we've installed that have enabled the point of sale app SDK. So here's the one that we were building earlier. Now you'll notice our app doesn't have a card. When you're building your app, you can enter your card by going to the partner's dashboard and clicking on Edit App Store Listing. This is also where you would submit your app if you wanted to publish it in the Shopify App Store. And it'll ask for a whole bunch of different marketing details, which will define your listing within the App Store. And this is where we'd upload an app card. If you upload an app card here, then that's where it will show up within the point of sale. So ours doesn't have an app card. We'll just tap on it for now. Great. So our app loaded inside of the iPad. And we can see here there's a couple examples of POS SDK features. This one we talked about earlier, which is the flash messages. These allow you to show messages to the merchant to give them feedback on things that worked or didn't work within your app. So this one is used for a success message, and it looks just like the message that they would see using point of sale. We also have one for errors. So if something failed, something didn't work out, you can use this to communicate back to the merchant. This operation we just took, it failed. We didn't talk about this, but you can also use regular JavaScript alerts to fire a modal that looks like this. So that's another option you have available to you. Great, so it worked from the Apps tab. Let's go take a look at the app from the integration point that we just set up in the edit cart. So we'll go to the checkout. We're going to add something to cart. And let's edit this cart. Great, and here we can see that the app link we just set up has shown up here. And it says discounts, which is the title of the app link that we entered. And there's no icon, but we'll click on it. And a modal shows up which loads our app in a web view. So here you can, with this example, what it does is it allows you to add discounts to the cart using the discount function that we discussed earlier. So I'm going to enter an amount. For this discount, we'll say $1. And there it uses the flash message. So I'll close the window, and we can see that the cart discount was applied here. And as we mentioned earlier, you can apply discounts to the whole cart, or you can actually add discounts to a particular line item. So another thing I wanted to point out was that with this example app, it does show a bunch of the different features of the point-of-sale app SDK. And if you're looking for other code samples to show sort of how to interact with the JavaScript SDK itself, you can look on GitHub at the SDK. There's a JavaScript file here that you can look at, and it has examples of what we were just talking about. So in cart.js here, you can see, again, there's examples here of fetching the cart, of adding products to the cart, applying a customer to the cart, creating discounts, and more. So this file here could be a good example if you were looking for more examples of how to use the point-of-sale app SDK. Another great resource is the documentation. So we mentioned it earlier, but there's documentation on the Shopify help website where you can learn about the different functions of point of sale and find more examples of exactly how to use them. Cool, so that's the end of the webinar. Thank you for joining us. And we actually have another webinar coming up. I will pull up details here. On May 11th, we're having a webinar about Slate, which is our new theme development framework. That's being led by Nathan Ferguson, who's a Fed lead at Shopify. So if you are building client stores for the web as well, you might be interested to hear about Slate. It's a really cool new product. So that's on May 11th. You can check that out as well. And if you have any questions about the point of sale app SDK, definitely feel free to shoot me a message. My email address is josh.brown@shopify.com.